the floor.
Wait.
Sink.
Hey guys, how are you all doing? And today we are talking about Get Out. Get Out was never just about horror. It was about making racism feel polite, making exploitation feel flattering, and forcing Chris to smile his way through a nightmare he's not even allowed to call a nightmare. What makes this film so uncomfortable is not only the danger itself, but the way everyone insists on dressing the danger up as normal. The smiles, the compliments, and the fake warmth all work together to make Chris feel as though he's overreacting, even when his instincts are clearly telling him otherwise. On the surface, Get Out looks simple. A black man goes away for the weekend with his white girlfriend and meets her family. It should feel awkward and maybe a little tense, but still manageable and still explainable. Jordan Peele uses that expectation against both Chris and the audience immediately. From the moment Chris arrives, everything feels slightly off, and the elephant in the room is already sitting in there, even before anyone says anything directly. No one is openly threatening, no one says exactly what they mean, and no one crosses a line so clearly that Chris can simply stand up and leave. Everything is wrapped in politeness, which makes the early sections of the film far more uncomfortable than if the hostility were obvious from the start. The horror begins in performance. Chris is surrounded by people who act welcoming, reasonable and relaxed, while everything about the situation feels wrong underneath the surface.
Okay.
Oh, not bad. Hey, Nielsen. So, is it true? Is it better? Wow.
He's expected to stay calm, stay polite and stay socially fluent, even when his body's already telling him that something's off. A big part of what makes Get Out so effective is the way it shows a threat that never arrives in a simple form. It comes through loaded comments, glances and conversations that seem harmless on paper but feel wrong in the moment. A compliment about Chris's body, a strange question, or a smile that lingers too long all become part of the same pressure. Any one of those things can be brushed off on its own, but together they create something much darker and a bit creepy. The garden party is where all of that becomes impossible to ignore. On the surface, the scene looks polished, wealthy, and even friendly, but the mood underneath it feels invasive. Chris is not being welcomed into the space so much as being observed inside it. He's treated less like a guest and more like someone being examined, measured, and quietly reduced. That is what makes the racism in Get Out so effective as a horror. It does not arrive as open hatred, like American History X. It arrives as curiosity, fascination, entitlement, and admiration twisted into something predatory. The film understands how disturbing it is when someone says something dehumanizing with a smile on their face, because the violence is now hidden inside social normality. Chris cannot just react to the threat in front of him. He has to manage it, absorb it, and stay composed through it. He has to keep reading the room while the room is slowly closing in on him. And that is a huge part of what makes the film exhausting in such a deliberate way. A lot of horror films are built around obvious danger, but Get Out builds its tension around the opposite. The fear comes from being trapped in a situation where your discomfort is real and everyone around you is performing normality so confidently that responding honestly starts to feel risky. By the time Missy hypnotizes Chris, the ground has already been shifting under him for a while. The Sunken Place works so well because it gives a visual form to everything the film has already been building. The loss of control, the paralysis, and the feeling of being trapped inside yourself while something else takes over. It is one of the bleakest ideas in modern horror because it is not only about pain or fear, it's about erasure. Chris is still there, he can still see, and he can still feel what is happening, but he has been stripped of agency and forced into the background of his own life. In a quieter way, the film has been moving towards that feeling from the very beginning. Every fake smile, every loaded comment, and every movement Chris is expected to swallow his instincts has been preparing him for that final loss of control. By the time the truth is fully revealed, the horror no longer feels abstract. It feels like the natural endpoint of everything the film has been building up to. What makes the Armitage family so frightening is how calm, organised and practiced they feel. Nothing about them feels random. Everything feels rehearsed, as though Chris has stepped into a pattern that has happened before and will happen again. That calmness makes them even more disturbing because evil always feels more dangerous when it presents itself as reasonable. The film stays with people because its first layer of horror feels recognizable long before it becomes extreme. You do not need hypnosis or surgery to understand what is unsettling about Get Out. Most of the fear is already there in the pressure to laugh something off. Stay measured and keep smiling even when every instinct is telling you to go home. Beneath the hypnosis, the surgery, and the horror twist, the film is dealing with racism that hides behind politeness, class, status, and performance. It is dealing with the violence of being admired for the wrong reasons, and with the fear of being in a room full of people who are quietly following a script and expecting you to follow it too. Get Out still works because it understands a very simple truth. Some of the most disturbing horror does not begin with a monster. It begins with a smile that doesn't feel right. If you enjoyed this breakdown, subscribe to Scary Film Reels for weekly psychological horror deep dives, and tell me in the comments, what do you think was scarier in Get Out? The open horror at the end or the fake normality that came before it?